The most fun to watch team in the NFL, in my opinion, just clinched the #1 seed in the AFC. They will have home field advantage throughout, which to me, I think it's exciting. I think that they are the most fun team to watch, not just offensively, but defensively. I think that the way they run both their offense and their defense is so unique and so fun. I do think that their offense is just probably the more fun part. I mean, let's be honest, offense tends to be the more fun part of football. And so I figure, you know what? Lamar Jackson, he's probably going to win MVP. Let me just break down one more game from him of his MVP season, probably, since he most likely won't play Week 17. So let's just break down his game against the Browns. He was once again fantastic against them, and he really just had a fantastic season. He should feel very proud of himself. But anyways, let's just start off with the bread and butter of this offense, a play like this. The way it's going to work is that it's going to be a fake handoff to the middle of the field, but then also what's going to happen is that their fullback in the game is going to move up to block the Cleveland edge rusher on the top half of the screen. And since this is actually going to be a quarterback run through the top half of the screen, typically what you do in those situations is you leave the edge rusher unblocked. He runs over to make sure that he's stopping the run, or he just tries to go to the outside, and then you do hand it off and, take away a player without having to block him. However, for Baltimore, they're kind of doing something very unique here, where they're going to have their fullback block him, which means that when Lamar Jackson runs up to the top half of the screen, it's actually going to be the Cleveland Brown who you see circled. That's going to be the guy who really, it's his decision that's going to be deciding what Baltimore does here. Because as you notice, he goes over to run to try to take away the running game. He's trying to make sure that he tackles the halfback, which is what he usually does, but because he's doing this now means that really there's no one blocked to the top half of the screen. This is how you kind of use your halfback as a blocker, but in a different way. Plus, you're able to fool a lot of guys and get them out of position. So that's kind of the value that it brings. Because then when Lamar Jackson runs up to the top half of the screen, he really only has one guy to beat. And in fairness, usually for a defense, you kind of like this idea. This is why a lot of guys can't get away with being a running quarterback like Lamar Jackson can, because in this situation, a lot of quarterbacks can't outrun edge rushers. It's very difficult to do, especially when it's only like 5 to 10 yards down the field. But because Jackson is so fast, he is able to get up, and he's able to have a very good run on first down, and that's just kind of what Baltimore does. That's their very basic play, which goes for 9 yards, which that's what makes them so difficult to stop in a lot of ways. Is it's so easy for them to just bust out those, long runs, or at least on the high-end medium runs, that'll create those second down and shorts, and at that point, it's just so difficult to stop them, and that's why the Ravens are now the best team in the AFC or in the NFL. But let's be honest, we all know about that. We all know Lamar Jackson's running ability is fantastic, everyone is aware, but I think what's actually just as fun to talk about is his passing ability, because he really is a great passer. I do think that coming out of college, definitely his passing ability wasn't the reason he got drafted, but it also probably got overlooked a little bit. I think people saw him as such a dynamic runner that they kind of sort of forgot that he actually can be a pretty decent passer as well. And this play is actually a great example of that, where it's a little bit unique what Cleveland is running, and by unique, I mean they're going to screw up here. First things first, we know it's man coverage, which is actually an okay situation. Baltimore has a receiver running that route right there. It's a route they like, and it's a route that Lamar Jackson will absolutely look to throw the ball to in this situation. But of course, if there's someone taking away the middle of the field, this would turn into double coverage. And oftentimes with a route like this, you just accept a double coverage, but you force them into having a double coverage in the middle of the field, and then you don't have to worry about the outside of the field. But if you notice, there isn't a Cleveland Brown who I have who's in charge of covering that Baltimore Raven. I mean, there's one over there who clearly he's supposed to either rush the passer or make sure that he's covering that Raven or drop back into coverage. And there's also a safety who's deep. And either one of these guys could be actually covering that Raven, but neither of them are. There's a cross up here by Cleveland. They're actually both going to be dropping back into coverage here. I think they think this is a cover one hole of some sorts, which, listen, that's a totally fine play to run, but you can't run this type of play if you don't have 5 guys playing man coverage right now, because that leaves somebody completely uncovered. There's just some sort of a cross up right now, and that's going to be a great situation for Baltimore. Because as you see, the guy who is shallow, make sure that he runs over there to take away the first Baltimore Raven. And the safety is starting to play deep, just looking around, trying to read Lamar Jackson and seeing where the ball is going to be thrown. But what he doesn't realize is that he doesn't have help. There is another Raven completely uncovered here because nobody is guarding him. Somebody screwed up, and now he is just getting completely uncovered. He is wide open. But what I love about this from Jackson is if you look at him, he already notices this. He already knows that his receiver is wide open. He's not hesitating. He's getting the ball to him. That allows him to make the catch, and he also hit him perfectly in stride, which allowed the touchdown. I mean, you would see some guys maybe wait too long to make that throw, or just panic and not make a very accurate throw because you see a guy wide open and you just sort of get in your own head a little bit. But for Lamar, he read that play very quickly, didn't panic, didn't hesitate, hit him quickly, and was able to get the touchdown. And that's really kind of what he is as a passer. It's very Matt Stafford-like in a lot of ways. I actually think that's a pretty good comparison with those two passers. I think obviously Lamar Jackson is an incredible athlete on top of that, but I think that the way that he times his routes, it really does remind me of Matt Stafford in a lot of ways. The way he has the timing to hit the routes at the exact perfect point. And this next play will be another good example of explaining that. It's going to be a cover 3 zone, and for the Ravens, they have a receiver running that route right there. Great way to beat this type of coverage, especially against the Baltimore Ravens, because just the fact that they run the ball so much that linebackers are going to be moving in to be aware of a potential run. It almost automatically creates a play action, even if you don't run play action. You just naturally get them out of position because they are aware of a potential run, so it just sort of works out that way. But anyways, take a look at what happens right when this ball is snapped. There are 2 Cleveland defenders who are in the area, but if Lamar can throw it in between them, there definitely is a window there. But also keep in mind that one of those Cleveland players is making sure that he's covering up Willie Snead right there because he sees that he's open, he's in his zone, so he has to make sure that he covers up that area. But because of that, Lamar is going to be able to throw it over him, and the gap is going to get widened. And so watch how he just, again, times it perfectly and has a perfectly accurate throw, which results in not just a catch, but allows his big tight end right there to gain as many yards as possible. I feel like he reads these plays very well, and this play is another perfect example of it, where Cleveland is going to try to trick Baltimore here, essentially, where what we know is going on is those 4 guys are playing man coverage. That part we know, the way they're lined up, and so for that part, they're not really trying to fool anybody. It's pretty clear that those guys, if it is man coverage, those 4 guys are going to be playing man. But what you would typically expect, basically what Cleveland is trying to pretend like what they're about to do is play just a cover 1 blitz. You have 5 guys rush the passer, then you have your safety play deep, and then it's one-on-one matchups all across the board everywhere else, and you have the defensive back who's lined up with the receiver in the middle of the field to cover him. That seems like what you would expect. But instead, this is actually going to be a cover 0, where that Cleveland Brown is also going to be rushing the passer. So there's going to be 6 players rushing the passer, and instead, the safety is going to stay back and cover up that Baltimore player right there. But this is actually, on paper, good news for Baltimore, because now he's running that route right there. It's a pretty good route against a one-on-one matchup, and since there's no safety help, and the safety is already out of position for the disguise, this can work out well for Baltimore, and it's also something that, and it really is something that can absolutely work for this Ravens team. But of course the problem is that Baltimore isn't expecting this, they don't get to see all this before the ball is snapped. They have to try to make this read in real time. Lamar Jackson is going to have to try to figure out what's going on in real time, realize the disguise, and make the throw at a good time. And so, while that's the throw that he wants to make, he doesn't realize that at this time. And especially with only 15 seconds left, usually you expect some sort of conservative call here. This is a very aggressive call, and so it is going to fool Lamar Jackson a little bit because it's not what you're expecting. Because after the ball is snapped, absolutely Lamar's receiver is just open at this point. This can be an easy touchdown, but the problem is if you look at him, he's under pressure because of the blitz on this one. He wants to make this throw right now. If you look at him, he already realized what's going on. He actually read this play very quickly, realized what's going on, and wants to make this throw, but it looks like he actually got hit by his own lineman on this one. Just his lineman got pushed back into him. And so watch how he's going to reset his feet and then make a perfectly accurate throw for a touchdown. Despite the fact that he wasn't even totally balanced, really just a tremendous play by Lamar. A great read, great athletic play, and also just great wherewithal to say, okay, you know what? I don't have to panic here. Yes, there's pressure, but if I just give myself an extra split second, that's all I need. That's what he did, and it resulted in a touchdown. One last play I loved from Lamar Jackson is actually a play that started off in a disaster. I believe it's supposed to be play action, but the reason why I say I believe and I don't know is because this is just going to be a disaster right when the ball is snapped because Lamar doesn't take the snap very well. He's going to just drop it, which, just further goes to show that he shouldn't be a wide receiver in the NFL, but also it just goes to show that weird things happen in football. However, one thing I really liked is look at Mark Ingram here and notice how he quickly realized, okay, don't try to take a handoff or try to take a fake handoff. Ball was dropped. Time to go into panic mode. Time to try to make something happen. I see that there's pressure coming on the edge. I'm going to block that guy out of the way. And Lamar also says, okay, let's not panic, sees that, and is able to move up in the pocket because of that good block. So just really good coolness under the pressure by those two guys, first of all. However, now at this point, there is a linebacker who, if he makes the correct angle, then, Lamar, he'll probably gain a couple yards, but now you're looking at a 3rd down and 7, maybe 3rd down and 5. You would be on the outside of field goal range, and we all know Justin Tucker is more than capable of making a field goal, but, at least this way you can try to get a stop, hold them to 3. That's kind of what you're looking at here. But watch this angle that the linebacker takes, and he isn't able to make a great angle. Now, Lamar Jackson actually takes a big hit, but that was because of a missed block. That wasn't his fault at all. That was, his teammate has to make the block there, and he even points at him and says, hey, dude, you got to make that block. So I don't blame Lamar for that one. I do blame the tight end there. You got to make that block. It's you can't let your quarterback get hurt like that. But at the same time, what I find so fascinating about that play is just the missed angle. It's so crazy to me that no matter how much tape that they have on Lamar, no matter how many times they go up at Lamar, guys are going up against Lamar 3, 4, or, well, not more than 4, but teams have gone up against him 4 times now, and they're still not really figuring this out yet. There's no doubt about it that you can beat the Baltimore Ravens, you can beat their offense, you can at least slow down their offense, and you can attack their defense, but you can't do it easily. And if they do get beat in this playoffs, it's not going to be by a lot. I promise you that much. I'm still not quite ready to say that it's definitely going to be them in the Super Bowl this year. I do think that New England has a chance. I would be worried about New England if I'm the Ravens, and Ravens fans don't need me to tell them that. I'm sure they're always very worried about the Patriots, just like the Patriots are always very worried about the Ravens. They've had one of the more fun rivalries in recent memory, and it's kind of cool to see it sort of come back, because it was so fun around 7 years ago when Flacco was still quote-unquote elite. Not literally elite, but you know what I mean. It's definitely been cool to see the Ravens really just dominate throughout this season. One of the more dominating seasons that a offense has had in quite some time that I can remember. And to all the people that say, well, all the good teams that they beat in the regular season now have a chance to game plan and get better after their first appearance, well, guess what? The Ravens have a chance to game plan and get better as well. So it'll be a lot of fun to watch. I'm greatly looking forward to seeing postseason football back in Baltimore once again.